You're looking for a firewall that won't make you spend a month wrestling with menus, that can actually protect a growing office, and that won't feel like a luxury you can't afford. You want something that lives in the background, does its job, and lets you get back to work. That feeling of doubt when a product promises high speed and business class but you're not sure if it will fit your real-world network is what keeps most buyers scrolling. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review I'll walk through what the Zyxel USGFLEX500H actually brings to the table, who will get real value out of it, and why some businesses might be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the USGFLEX500H is marketed as a high-speed firewall with 4 2.5 GBE ports, 2 of which can feed PO+ devices. For a small office that runs a handful of VoIP phones, a couple of access points, and a desktop-class server, that kind of connectivity sounds perfect. In practice, the multi-gig ports let you avoid the bottleneck you hit when you're stuck on a 1 GBE uplink, especially if your ISP provides a 2.5 GBE or higher pipe. The device also supports VPN tunnels, which means remote workers can punch into the office network without needing a separate concentrator. What you don't get with this box is any of the Unified Threat Management (UTM) features that many competitors bundle in. There's no built-in intrusion detection, web filtering, or anti-malware engine. Zyxel expects you to pair the firewall with a separate security suite if you need that level of protection. For a shop that already runs an endpoint security platform and a cloud-based web filter, that might be fine. For anyone hoping for an all-in-one set-it-and-forget-it solution, the omission is a deal-breaker. Let's talk about day-to-day usability. The hardware itself is a straightforward 1U-rack unit with a single power brick. When you first plug it in, the only thing you have to do is point a browser at the default IP and log in with the credentials printed on the label. The initial wizard walks you through setting up WAN, LAN, and the 2 PO+ ports. It's a no-frills interface, which many IT admins appreciate because there's less chance of getting lost in a sea of toggles. However, the simplicity also means the web UI feels a bit dated, and the navigation isn't as intuitive as the modern SAA-style dashboards you see from newer cloud-managed firewalls. Nebula Cloud Management is Zyxel's answer to remote administration. Once you register the device, you can pull up the basic status from any browser, see which VPN tunnels are up, and push firmware updates without being on site. The Cloud Portal does a decent job of aggregating logs, but because UTM isn't part of the package, you won't see detailed threat reports or granular content categories. If your organization already uses a SIEM or a dedicated threat intel platform, you can forward the syslog output from the USGFLEX500H and still get visibility. For smaller teams that don't have a SIEM, the limited reporting may feel like you're flying blind. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you run a boutique agency, a design studio, or a tech startup with up to 300 users, and you already have a separate endpoint protection solution, the USGFLEX500H can be a solid network edge device. The high throughput rating means you won't be throttling traffic when multiple users stream video calls, pull large design files, or sync code repositories. The PO+ ports are handy for powering a pair of Unify or Aruba access points without running extra cables, which can shave a few minutes off a deployment. On the flip side, if you're a mid-size business that expects to add more than a handful of devices over the next year, you might outgrow the 4 2.5 GBE ports quickly. The lack of built-in content filtering also means you'll need to buy or subscribe to a separate service for safe web browsing, an extra cost that wasn't part of the initial price tag. Finally, the single rating of 1 star on Amazon suggests at least one buyer had a serious issue. While we can't verify the specifics, it's a red flag that you should dig into the return policy and maybe test the unit in a lab environment before committing to a production rollout. From a value perspective, the price point sits in a range where you're paying for a brand name and the promise of business-class reliability.